Hey everyone, Salahathan from RaiderIO here. Group B of the Season 3 Dragonflight MDI finished yesterday, and today we will be sitting down with Kush from Bald Bandits, Stove from Mandatory, and Arxes from Eclipse to talk about their experiences and performances this weekend. Kush, Stove, Arxes, thanks so much for joining us today. Would you mind introducing yourselves real quick for those who may not be familiar with you? Talk a little bit about your team, and if you're streaming, where people can find you and, see you play a little bit.
Yes, I can go first. I and Stove were both playing Echo, but Stove is a newer addition. He's a little bit of a rookie in that regard, but I'm more of the rookie when it comes to MDI. This is the first MDI I've ever played. Since basically since forever, of course, since it's the first one. But I mean, it's been fun, and I don't know, not much more to say about me other than I raced the world first in Echo, and I played MDI for the first time this time, I guess. That's me. Also stream, of course.
Yeah, I'm Stove. I also raid an Echo. Joined last season, but I've played the MDI and TGP for a couple of seasons now. Played with Sheesh in the previous TGP and with Donuts in the first MDI of Dragonflight. I play Sharp Priest now and last season, and I stream at twitch.tv/StovePOV. That's kind of it.
And my name is Arxes. I'm a raider in Fetch Arxes. Well, currently trialing, but we'll see. I'm a main DPS player for Team Eclipse, and this is my first time competing in MDI. You can check out my stream where I mostly just push high keys at twitch.tv/ArxesLL if you like.
Awesome. Thanks again so much for all of you for making time this quickly after the event as well. This time around, the MDI is noticeably shorter than the previous ones. We only have 2 group stages now, and only the top 16 teams make it out of the time trials compared to the top 24. Stove, you've been competing in previous MDIs already. Did the change in format affect your preparation or your planning a little bit? Just in general, how do you feel about the change in format when it comes to making it basically a 6-week event instead of like 9 or 10 weeks that it was before?
Yeah, basically the time investment is way shorter now. So for me, it's way nicer to just spend like 6 or 7 weeks of preparation instead of like having to prepare for like 3 months basically. And obviously, when you have that many weeks, you have we used to have like 3 cups, and then we had the last stand tournament. So you could see a lot of different tech. Like a lot of people were coming up with tech every week, so you had to adapt and basically just keep playing better, keep doing better. But now it feels a lot shorter. It feels like a lot of the time commitment is removed, which is very nice. Feels good. And yeah, I think it's overall a better format than before.
Awesome. Glad to hear that it's just easier for you basically and more comfortable for you to compete at this level. Arxes and Kush, for you two, has the shortening of the MDI season, has it affected you guys at all in terms of now being able to commit, whereas previously it was maybe a little bit of too much time? Or for Arxes specifically, how did you join up with the Eclipse team that used to run with a different composition previously?
Well, I only recently started playing WoW competitively. I think I've only started pushing at the end of Season 1 Dragonflight. I was mostly just pugging, and then from there I just met a bunch of different people and made connections. So I think for this season, I started playing more with a lot of the members from Team Eclipse, specifically Kira and AJ and Yargi. So we just, like, as we started playing this season, we were like, you know what, might as well just compete in the MDI, looks kind of fun. So we just made up a team and signed up. For the time commitment, I mean, I'm not sure about previous MDIs since I wasn't really playing or watching them. But the preparation needed for them, like for the upcoming matches, is insane. Like, at least in my opinion, like having 8 maps with so many variables in terms of team composition and routes and affixes is like a lot of things to get through before the actual match starts.
Yeah, I can only imagine that it's like very daunting to step into this for the first time. Kush, for you, it's probably like you've been playing competitively for quite a bit longer. This time around, like you mentioned before, it's the first time you're actually playing MDI. How did that came to be?
Well, yeah, I've been, like on the edge of playing for like a while, I guess. Like, I think ever since Legion, even. I had like the thought of playing, right? But I never just got around to doing it, I suppose, because I don't know. I just always felt like it would be too much of a time commitment, together with just, the feeling that you might not succeed and stuff. I don't know. That's like something that's always a bit scary. You don't want to fail. But I mean, this time it's like it was the same process as always. Someone asked me to play in. Instead of saying no, I just said sure, I'll try it. This time it was like nothing really like lined up, like no stars aligning. Just said yeah, okay, sure, I'll try for fun, kind of. It's been fun, I guess. I don't since it's the first one. I can't really compare the prep time and stuff, to the other MDIs. But I mean, I think a lot of teams are playing super much and prepping really hard. I think we've been like a little bit less on that end. I don't know about the exact numbers of other teams, but it feels like people are playing a lot. I wish that we were playing more, in fact, but it's a bit awkward when you have like, I know Mandatory has some Oceanica as well, but we have Yips from NA, so it's like a bit clashing with the schedules and stuff and people working. So I find it's quite hard to fit the schedules for like prepping and stuff. I think it's gonna be, we have to play a lot going into globals, otherwise we're going eighth. But yeah, I mean it's been kind of fun though. I'm excited for globals.
Very cool. Yeah, I think we all are. It's globals with how competitive the field is now. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. As for the format of the MDI now that we've you've all experienced it a little bit, is there something that you would still like to see changed to improve it, either in terms of, like you said, like the time commitment or the practice, or just in general to make it more accessible to new teams as well, to make it even more competitive? Or do you feel like the way that the format is right now is pretty damn good already?
I can go. I think one thing that I think would be very fun is if let's say the first group had. I feel like a lot of the affixes and the key levels were the same for both groups, and it felt like whatever you saw in Group A is probably like the best for your group as well. But if we had like let's say Warcraft was a lower key level for us but higher for them, then we would be able to do different strats and we wouldn't just copy other people, right? I think that would make it a lot more fun to watch as well, because I think Throne was really bad affixes for both groups, and it was the same with Warcraft, kinda. So I feel like a lot of the cool tech that you can do in those dungeons didn't get to be shown because it was just too high of a key level and you couldn't do certain things. I think that would make it more enjoyable to watch at least, and to prepare as well. I don't know about newer teams coming in. I'm not sure there, but that's what I think about the format in general, or like how it can be improved.
Yeah, I agree fully. I think it's not only part. I think the outcome is. I agree with the outcome that you copy shit, but I also don't think it's only because of the key levels and stuff. I think like the maps. A lot of the maps are just really straightforward as well, and it's not really much to change regardless of the key levels. But I do agree with the key levels and affixes thing. I think Blizzard could have done a better job with like maybe switching it up a little bit so you can let's say copy, I guess, because there was like pretty much no changes in like the routes for like both weeks, because there wasn't really much that you could have changed, I guess, in like a lot of places.
Yeah,
I totally
definitely
agree with
agree.
you.
With the maps thing, I feel like a lot of them are very linear this time around, and it's just kind of a DPS race and don't die kind of thing.
Just press W, right?
Yeah, like Fall, Black Rook, Rise, all the same.
Yeah, there's definitely some adjustments you can make, but like once you watch the routes from Group A and like what they figured out, you can pretty much fit it into your route as well to some degree, and just like made some little changes to like try to speed it up. Since like most of the affixes and the maps were, I wouldn't say completely the same, but they were like very similar. As for the format, I mean that's just coming from my perspective since we were in the lower bracket. like on third day, having to face 3 different teams in one day, I think is like really difficult since you got to prep for like each team individually and every map. Obviously, if you've done a lot of prep work before, like you wouldn't really struggle since you should have prepped for every map anyway. But yeah, some of the teams don't really have that much time on their hands to prep for every map. So what we did was pretty much just pen out the maps we faced the least. So we practiced the least in, but then like as the tourney goes on, obviously you have to play those maps. So once you go on day 3 of the weekend and you have to face 3 different teams in a single day, it's a bit stressful, I would say.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially also just, depending on how long each of the series goes, you have like potentially like 3 matches in each of the series or like 5 in the grand finals. And then you're going to be playing like 6 hours straight almost when you're starting in the lower bracket on the last day. Definitely doesn't seem ideal. So yeah, maybe they'll be doing something for next time around where they have at least that one lower bracket match played a little bit earlier. You mentioned Group A now already. Coming out of the time trials, I think everybody was already surprised to see people playing just, these 4 DPS comps, no healer. We saw it in Rise back then in the time trials, and now obviously after Group A, people started waking up. Oh, it's possible in way more dungeons. Did it come as a big surprise to any of you that so many dungeons were possible without a healer at all? And if it came as a surprise, like how much did you have to scramble to practice like a bunch of different dungeons now with your healer suddenly having to play DPS again?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like coming into the MDI, I never once thought that we're gonna have a key with no healers, because in previous seasons I feel like there was a lot of damage output coming in. But in this season, like I don't think there's a lot of damage coming in unless there's like a very big pull and you have bursting, then it's a bit difficult, I would say. But it's mostly just like one-shot damage, which all the classes can easily avoid. And there's no like a damage over time you take that you need a healer for. So like having a red paladin, for example, is extremely good because he can just top you if you take a lot of damage, and if not, like all the other 3 classes can like leech on their own. They have like really good defensives. But yeah, as soon as we saw that we could do one dungeon with no healer, that's kind of like an indication, well, how many dungeons can you actually do without a healer, because you're obviously going to gain time no matter what if you successfully do so. So we just tried testing it out in every single dungeon. Some were more difficult than others, some you actually have to require a healer. But in most, I was very surprised that you could just play 4 DPS.
Yeah, I agree. It's I think it's also just a byproduct of the current meta classes being extremely tanky and providing like a lot of shit themselves as well. Like Mage, Shadow Priest, Warlock is baseline tanky, and like Void, what's it called? Vampiric Embrace just heals infinite. Just a lot of off healing as well already in like the meta DPS comp. Is like I think one of the biggest contributors to just the 4 DPS meta. On our end, like I think we only played 4 DPS in Everbloom actually.
Yep.
But it's because it's like we talked about that Arxes talked about. We didn't really have time to practice a lot of the maps that we don't practice that much compared to other teams. So we had to like basically pick 4 maps that we would like commit to the most, I guess, and that was of course the ones we would play the most early on. And so basically, when we went into the final game, for example, and we played Fall, we basically just started the game 1 map down because we played it down like twice. It was like, yeah, I mean, let's just let them get the first one. I don't know. People played 40 DPS on that one, and we just couldn't as well because we weren't comfortable with 40 DPS there because we played them off twice. So yeah.
Ulf, how was it for you guys?
I think for me it wasn't a huge surprise that 4 DPS is a thing. I did expect it kinda, especially with like because I knew that Shadow Priest is gonna be one of the best classes in the MDI. It just brings like whenever you're playing like 8 or 9 mobs or whatever, you just self-sustain yourself back up, and then when you have your cooldowns and VE rolling, you can just top the group for like 50 seconds or something. And I think, as Kush said as well, like the other classes are also very tanky. They provide some group defenses as well, like Mass Barrier. So like in lower key levels, I definitely expected for us or for anyone to try out some 4 DPS keys and see how it is. And I think what kind of sucks about that is that most healers don't really play DPS, and now suddenly they have to learn like 2, 3, 4 new specs and a whole new role to be like very competitive in, like play it at the highest level basically, so you can win those maps, right? I think that's one of the main struggles when it comes to the 4 DPS meta.
Yeah, do you think that it would be better to like make some changes, either design-wise or just to the format or the rule set that basically requires a healer? Because like you just said, I think it's somewhat daunting for, you know, someone like, say you are a healer right now and you're watching the MDI and you feel like, hey, I wanted to compete in this, but I kind of don't want to play DPS, and suddenly I have to play it in like half the dungeons. Do you think that they should make some changes there as well?
It's hard to say because I think it can be a nice addition, but yeah, I don't think it should be the standard. I think maybe like one key, having it in one key would be very nice or very fun to watch maybe, but having it in like half the dungeons I think is a bit too much. I'm not sure what the best solution would be for that, but yeah.
Kush, Arxes, you guys have some ideas on how to improve the situation, or do you feel that this is kind of pretty good for MDI, honestly?
I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad personally. It's the first MDI I played. I don't know. I think people played 4 DPS before as well in like some places. I don't know if it was more prevalent this time or not. I don't know if anyone else knows. I don't even know if it's worse this time than other times. But I think the situation right now is like, I agree with Stove that it's like annoying as for. Oh, sorry, wait, can I swear or no? I don't know. Whatever,
Go
bleep me out. And whatever, I can agree that it's like annoying for healers to like learn DPS specs since they probably don't play those on live. Like that's generally the case. People pick one role and they play it mostly, and having to learn different specs, especially in MDI settings where it's like kind of stressful a lot of the times, it can be like, I don't know, as you say, like a bit off-putting for like maybe new people, and like, yeah, trying to get into MDI when you see that you have to play DPS might be something that puts you out, you know, and it's like, nah, man, I ain't doing this. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it, I guess, personally, a little bit. I mean, I'm assuming the key levels will also be a bit higher in globals, so I don't think maybe it won't be as much in globals. I mean, there's some dungeons that are just really like no healing needed though. On like, that's like a bit of a problem as well. It's like you're gonna be no matter the affixes, for example, fall. Like you can probably always 4 DPS fall. There's not really anything going on in that dungeon. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think like the only way you can fix it is pretty much to just lock in like all 3 rows, but that kind of takes away from the fact that you can maybe like have a pocket pick in like one or two maps, which in previous seasons I always think was pretty hype, you know, where you mostly seen healers, and then like one dungeon you could, oh my god, they're going 4 DPS, like how are they gonna live, like how are they gonna do this, how are they gonna do that, like everything changes. But right now, like I think when people saw it for the first time, it was kind of hype as well, but then you're like, wait, like you're not actually taking damage from anything at the same time. It also is like a byproduct like from all the meta classes, since they're kind of immortal. Well, I'm kind of biased since I'm playing mage, so I don't think I can ever die unless I make mistakes. I don't think it's like that on Warlock or Shadow Priest, but they also have like really good defensives and like team utility. But yeah, I think it's definitely cool as a pocket pick, but having like see it in every single dungeon, well, not every single dungeon, but like at least half of it, I think is pretty boring and kind of takes away from the healer role. And I think a lot of healers are probably upset watching the MDI because they kind of want to learn and see like the ins and outs and maybe like min-maxing on some classes, and now it's just 4 DPS and they're probably just a bit let down.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. It's not really like a learning experience. On the other hand, maybe we don't really want people to learn too much from the MDI when it comes to, you know, how to approach your pucky. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, maybe bringing Grievous back as an affix would help a lot to just, you know, put it on the dungeon where usually you don't take
Please
a lot
don't,
of damage.
please.
Oh god, no.
Please no.
But yeah, we'll see what Blizzard comes up with, and hopefully it's not going to be too punishing just because people have been playing 4 DPS now. When the event is ongoing, like over the course of the weekend, how do you usually spend your time when you're not playing? Like, say, for example, you play a match and then you know your next match isn't up for another 2 hours or so. Do you actively watch the other teams, or do you have like strict rules against watching other teams and you just do a bunch of practice dungeons for the upcoming series?
I mean, I can just speak for myself. I'm not sure what my own team members do even. I know that when we're not playing, and we're, for example, let's say we're the last game of the day. For example, that was day 1 for us. We weren't playing at all. We were just watching the other teams and just like seeing if the thing. It's kind of hard to incorporate new strats into your own routes in like a few hours, but I mean, it's still like somewhat interesting to just watch. I mean, you're not. I mean, we're pracking of course as well, but it is nice to get like a mental break and just relax and just like get in the zone kind of before your own games as well. That's at least my experience.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty similar, or we're pretty similar. I think a lot of the times we just watched the other teams play because we didn't have a single time where we went first. So we usually just watched the first game and then played the second. We usually we had a big break on the second day, I think. Yeah, the second day, where we got sent down to lower bracket. We had to basically just watch or do something for 2 hours, and we did a couple of dungeons, and then we just decided to chill for a bit, take a short break, and come back stronger for our game later on in the day.
Yeah, same for us. I don't know. I think it's a bit I won't say unhealthy, but I don't think it's as productive to practice a lot right before your match, because if something happens in practice that kind of brings down the mood, it can maybe impact the next match. I think it's much better to maybe send a few warm-up keys a few hours before the match, and then go into your actual game day completely prepared and mentally ready. Obviously, if you're not playing first, you can just watch other games or maybe warm up your fingers on the dummy or something like that. But yeah, we also did have a very big break between games where we lost against I think it was Perplexed. I'm not even sure my memory. And then we didn't have the next game for 4 or 5 more hours. So I think that is kind of stressful. That's when we practiced a few maps. Because obviously we were just mostly prepping to beat Perplexed, because nobody wants to just give up and go to lower bracket. And then in those 4 hours we tried to prep for the next game. And I think that was pretty stressful, having to wait that long between matches. I think especially if people have some responsibilities in later on in the day. We had our first game I think at 8 or at 9, I'm not entirely sure, and then we didn't have the next game up until 11 or 12 a.m. It was extremely late.
Yeah, so when it definitely sounds very stressful when you have these longer breaks, because there's this anxiety maybe even building up a little bit, especially when you got knocked into the lower bracket and then you're okay, we still have to win at least one match before we even qualify, right? Which probably was the goal for all of you to begin with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you see these other teams doing a different strategy, how does the process look like in terms of, hey, maybe this is something we're not doing? Is this something we should be doing? Do you spend a lot of time discussing these things and analyzing these things based off of the VODs, or how does this process work? Because just as an example, I don't know if this was planned by any of you, but early into the tournament, we saw Perplexed not pulling the Dinomancer pack in Natal, but then everybody else did it, and it seemed to cause issues for pretty much everybody, right? Sometimes it reset and it snapped back up, and then it came back down again after you already used all your cooldowns, or sometimes only one of the dinos would snap down, but the other one wouldn't. So we saw some changes there in strategy. I think it was in the Bald Bandits versus mandatory match in the lower bracket in Atal. Neither one of you actually pulled that pack, but you did it the earlier days. So how does the process work where you have to make changes from one day to the next?
Yeah, so how we handled everything was usually we wouldn't change completely rework our route. I think in Natal we had kind of both routes prepared. We just had to practice a little bit more in one of the variants, which was fine because we had the time after the games. Yeah, we Usually we saw like some minor stuff, like minor things that other teams did like minor optimizations, like how they did cooldowns, for example, in Black Rook Code was very interesting. Like small things like this, we could easily incorporate in like 2 or 3 runs, right? Like it would only take us like 30 minutes or something to get that to work for us as well. But usually, like the big things, we wouldn't really try and make a new route or something overnight, something like that. I think it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what we never played the Dino Pack actually. I think we never really changed our route throughout the tourney. Actually, I'm not sure. Maybe I don't think we ever played the Dino Pack, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't think we
I
ever
think you
changed
didn't
any
play
of
like
our
an
routes.
Antal earlier on, but it was definitely
that's
like
funny.
the way I remember it is that Perplex didn't play it, and then everybody else did. Like everybody, like all the teams that actually played on Antal, right? And then but it seemed to cause a lot of issues. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you ever
we
tried.
tried tracking it. We tried tracking it, but it was like such a mess always. So we just decided to not ever play it. I swear, it was
Okay.
it was a fiesta for us every single time we played it. So we just gave up on it. It was too high risk in our opinion. I guess I could say we just decided to like go a little bit of a safer route in the end. It didn't really look too safe for us, so we just depleted anyways. But
it was a bit too inconsistent, let's say, especially the snapping part, because you never know. Sometimes one of the dinos just doesn't snap, and then you have a big issue where you have to chain it into the next pack. But that's kind of the issue of, I guess, Blizzard's map design. It's not really something we can like change as players. We can only like play around it. But I can't say from experience, since we haven't played Atal in our series at all. We just practiced it a little bit. But as Stove also said, like you're never gonna do like these major changes in your routes. Whenever you see other teams play, you're gonna have like micro adjustments, cooldown timings, or maybe some packs are differently split up if you have a similar route. But changing up a whole route or like making a very crazy plan just before your match, you're probably never gonna do, because you haven't practiced it much, and there's a big chance you're gonna mess up and just deplete the key.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's definitely not easy to just make these adjustments, and then I think that's where the real value of the pocket strats comes in as well, right? Because you know that the other teams will not be able to emulate what you've been practicing for a week or two already. And then I mean, hopefully all of you still have some left in the tank for globals. So.
Saved up everything for globals.
Perfect.
yeah, we're just holding back, guys. That's what we wiped a few
Don't
times.
worry.
We're just holding back. We got this. Don't worry.
Echo doesn't know what's gonna hit him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I swore again.
So don't worry about it. When it comes to banning the dungeons, does something like another team having a pocket strat, does that come into play? Because all of you've banned like very different dungeons, right? Eclipse, you banned Everplume 3 times actually, despite being the team that ran the most dungeons without a healer. Then we Bald Bandits, you banned Rise 3 times, and then Mandatory, you focused a lot on like Waycrest and Throne. Obviously, that is somewhat to like limited to the maps that are actually in the pool, right? But how do you generally come up with the ban that you're going to do for that specific match? Is it more about where you feel most comfortable, or where you feel the enemy team is the strongest?
So for us, banning was we usually wanted to ban Throne. Like that was kind of our strategy, because we didn't really expect to play it. So actually, our route was kind of cooked up overnight. The one that we played in the loser bracket. We didn't really expect to play that, so we didn't practice much. So that's why we decided to ban it like most of the time. The rest of the time, like when there was no Throne in the pool, I think we thought like, okay, they might be better in this dungeon, or they have a good strategy here. Maybe we just we just ban it out. Or sometimes we also thought, okay, we don't want to show something cool that we do in this dungeon, so we're just gonna ban it out. That's how we thought about.
That's how good is that?
Yeah.
Ooh, let's go and check the mandatory bans.
Check him.
Checking.
You're making me nervous.
Yeah, I mean, now you
All
know that
good.
they have secret strats in the dungeons they banned, right? Which is 3 different ones, so you better come prepared for globals.
Thank you, stuff.
All good, guys.
True. We just banned the maps that we didn't play. We basically played Zero Rise, Zero Fall. So we just banned the maps we never played.
Yeah, same as Kush. Like, if you don't have infinite time to prep, then obviously some of the maps that you were the least ready for, you're gonna ban out. Or the way we planned it out is like we just looked at our series and we saw, oh, we're never gonna have to play Everbloom like as first map. There's only like a few scenarios where there's Everbloom, like last map maybe, map 5, and then we just ban it out because there's no point of practicing a map that you most likely never gonna play.
Yeah,
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. And now everybody can steal mandatories route in Everbloom anyway, right? Jumping a little bit to a different topic, which is like more based on comps than the dungeons themselves. We've seen like very little variation. Like I would definitely say that there's like a meta comp, which, you know, like Vengeance DH, Resto Druid, and then the trifecta of DPS with Shadow Priest Mage and Warlock. When you make these comp changes, how much do you actually practice for these or think about these before you start practicing them in the first place? And what do you think really makes like some of the classes shine? Say, for example, like people running with the double priest that we've seen in Atal, or bringing out the Mistweaver Monk in certain dungeons. What is like the deciding factor for that? Is it based on the affixes or on the dungeons? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know if people swapped it up as much as our team did. Maybe people played different stuff more, but we had like Rogue, and I guess the main reason that we played Rogue was actually just because we had, a little preparation, I guess, because I'm the Rogue player, and I even suggested that we should, play other classes other than, but we just didn't really have a lot of time to practice the other stuff after we initially had an idea of trying to play Rogue and stuff. So, I mean, it was just a matter of comfort as well. And it was because of affixes and dungeon at the same time for us, actually. Like, it was Dark Art we decided to play Rogue as one of dungeons. And the reason being Sanguine. Mistakes happen. Sanguine heals a lot, and Wound Poison is, pretty efficient when it comes to negating the Sanguine healing. So it was like both the factor of just having Wound Poison, and we felt that we could utilize the Rogue Shroud, speeded Shrouds and stuff. Yeah. Same thing for Blackrook, kinda, except no Sanguine. We just tried Rogue because it felt good. It's still okay, I think.
Yeah,
Actually,
I think
yeah.
the shroud speed, especially like in dungeons where you can't mount, like Blackrook, helps a lot with speed. I think that was one of the main things when we considered Rogue. Like we considered it mainly in DHT and BRH as well, because I mean in DHT, like the first, like how we played it is we skipped the first pool, right? A lot of other teams in Group A especially played a first pool and then went boss. I guess it was mostly because of bolstering. But we went to the boss immediately, and the shroud actually helped a lot with that. You also got to save your pot, which was very nice. And yeah, that was one of the things. And also in Blackrook Hold, you have so much walking time, you can never mount. So having that shroud on like a 3-minute cooldown, even less with when vanishing, right, like 2.5, is very nice. Helps you out a lot with speed in the dungeon, and also the burst that Sub-Rogue has. I'm not sure if any other class has that, so you can use that to your advantage as well. Like for example, on the Dwellers, I think you can just blow them up instantly and spawn the boss in Dark Art. Stuff like that made Rogue very, very good, but in the end, when we were trying out Priest, it just felt better, so we decided to play Priest pretty much everywhere. When it comes to healers, I think I'm not sure exactly. I think in Natal we mainly did it because of bursting. The burst having double MD there felt very good, but yeah, that's kind of it. I'm not really sure how exactly we decided about healers.
I think when it comes to Rogue, yeah, whenever you have like long traveling distances where you have to walk, it always comes to mind, oh, speed shroud's like really insane here. But then it also comes down to, do you actually gain time from that? Because I mean, you have to test both with SP and with Rogue. That's like mainly what you swapped out for Rogue was SP. And then you have to check your timers to see maybe SP's PI just like brings way too much value in certain packs with Warlock's CDs that the Rogue just can't compete in. But yeah, early on, I think early on before time trials, we played a lot of dungeons with Rogue and DK because we thought that it's gonna be like one of the strongest classes. But then at the end of the day, it all comes down to the damage. What's it called?
Damage profile?
Damage profiles, yes, exactly. And then like all the free damage, all the 3 DPS specs are like really good damage profiles where they all can do like insane single target while just cleaving everything around it. Warlock maybe not so much, but they do get like a lot of funnel just from having mobs around, so they can just bump single target as well.
True. Yeah, so the difference between single targeting and AoEing is Warlock is like so small as well. Like you can literally just press Rain of Fire and like what the you lose like nothing on the boss anyways. The most ridiculous class.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
nerf Warlocks. Nerf Warlock. If you hear this.
I think
Whoever
that is a
nerf
sentiment
Warlock.
that everybody can support, right? It's
Exactly.
definitely one of those classes that is very vocal, so they deserve some vocal backlash.
Vocal derps.
Yeah. One last question, basically. This is a bit of a fun one. How long did either of you spend practicing the gauntlet in Morozon's Rise? You know, like running like through the thingy and not getting sent back, because obviously it's a pretty big advantage to get all 5 players through on the first attempt, and then you know everybody's there and you can immediately start like engaging with the next trash pack after unlocking the shortcut. And are there some players that are better at it than others? You don't have to name names, obviously, but I do wonder how much time people actually spend on just that specific part of the dungeon.
I think we didn't spend any time basically like just practicing that because we had it in time trials. So we played it a long time in time trials, and that's when most of our practice came in.
Yeah, we played 0 minutes in there actually. We didn't actually never started a Rise key this MDI. So we did zero practice in the gauntlet. But I mean, it is something I want to do though. Like that gauntlet is, it's too hard. I don't know. It's too hard.
Do you
I
have
don't
like
care.
specific spots where everybody starts, or like a specific route where you say, hey, you know, like Stove, you always go left and someone else always goes right to get like some consistency in there, or is it just complete like press W and hope everybody makes it?
I just run it down mid.
Run it down, bro. I don't
We
know.
have some heavy spots this night, I think.
It's kind of embarrassing to say how many runs we failed in time trials because we always try to min-max our timer, and then whenever everyone didn't make it, like just go again. And every time like we failed the RP, it was just like the most obnoxious thing. And we try to like make like strats around. Maybe there's like some snap you can do. Maybe you can get through it like without a person and make it faster. It was like it was chaos. Let's say. I won't say AJ failed the most times, but at the same time, I wasn't counting.
Alright, yeah, I actually have one more. I don't know if you saw it. It was very surprising, right? Like, Bombard's Resurrected, they actually played a 4 DPS comp in Black Record. I don't know how much you've watched of that match or if you even saw it. I actually wanted to get your thoughts on that because obviously they came in as like the lowest seeded team in the group, but they actually made it look surprisingly easy, right? And Black Record, I think, was not a dungeon that was on people's list of being able to be played without a healer. Did you try the dungeon yourself without a healer as well, maybe, or even tried some of the skips that we saw from I think it was another team that even skipped the RP going up to the second boss? Did you play around with that a little bit as well, or is it just something that you feel is not worth it?
I didn't even know you could do it. That was the first time I saw it. I had no idea you could even like jump up on the edge as like a what is it called, evoker DJ? I had no idea. But I don't know. In my head, it just seems not worth it. I don't know. I mean, of course, people are gonna try it and see what they can cook with that, but it just seemed like not really worth it. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I suppose maybe someone finds some insane strat. But yeah, we did think about 4 DPS, our team at least, but I don't know. It seemed just a bit inconsistent with 4 DPS and just like a lot of random shoots and stuff. I don't know. We just decided to not even commit time into it too much because yeah, it was just hard to execute, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Kush here. Like, I think it was kind of the same for us. Having a 4 DPS there was a bit sketchy at times, especially like on stuff like first boss, when there's like a bunch of magic debuffs as well. You only have one MD. Yeah, it just didn't feel good to play without a healer, and honestly, like Reso Druid, especially with Heart of the Wild, does very good single target, so I feel like the gain from having an Orc Evoker would not even be that huge.
Yeah, unless you like use what's it called, the evoker's movement to like try to like get packs on top of a boss. Like I think Command now showed in their last game against us in Black Rook Hold. I don't think that dungeon is too consistent with 4 DPS, especially for first pull like stuff. So there's just so many debuffs on top of you, and if it's raging as well, I guess evoker can help with roar, but at the same time you have no healing. If somebody gets hit, it's extremely risky.
Yeah, do you think that maybe a different class choice would have been better there? We've seen Boomkin from Legendary last week, right? With, working against a Raging, you have a Stampeding Roar, you have the Nature's Vigil as well on top. Do you think that potentially would be a better play there, or?
Yeah, it could be. I think what makes Druid like very, very strong is the buff, like, and the single target, of course. But
Yep.
the buff adds so much damage to the group, and Boomkin, of course, has the same buff. So I think Boomkin would maybe be good. Yeah.
Yeah, people actually underplay how valuable the verse buff is. Even if you play, let's take Fall for example, it was Dogs against Echo, and they beat Echo while having a healer while Echo was playing for DPS. Because the timer difference is not that insane. Especially if your paladin has to heal. Like if your paladin has to heal, then you're pretty much just better off having a healer since he's not going to be doing as much damage as he should be.
Yeah, it's true.
Alrighty, then we'll leave it at that. We're already at like 40-ish minutes now. So once again, thanks so much all of you for coming and joining for the interview. And we wish you best of luck in the global finals. I hope you get plenty of time to prepare, but also a little bit of time to relax at least after this, very tight and close Group B finals. And especially the last day probably wasn't easy for any of you. And then we'll see you guys around in the global finals. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
It's
us.
been an
Thanks for
honor.
having us, bro.